It's always inspiring when you hear that Star Trek's song coming about when you're about to reach the stage itself. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to the organizers of today. And we'd like to say it's a big honor for us on behalf of MDEC to share with you what we have with regards to the digital opportunities for the health sector that we have been building up today. So what I have for the presentation is basically covers three main areas. The first thing is with regards, if we go to the first slide please, is with regards to the digital economy overview as a whole. And then I will proceed on to come into the overall perspective of the digital economy for the digital health. And lastly, what are the programs that we have built from the digital health team that we have today, and what are the expectations as well as the way forward that we have from the perspective of MDEC. Yeah? Okay, so my name is Fadzli Abdul Wahit. I'm the Senior Vice President for MDEC, and my division itself covers it's called the Digital Transformation Division. Now when we look into the perspective of transformation, it is not the transformation of an internal organization, but much more of the industry transformation. Now, when we say that industry transformation is basically looking from the perspective of fostering the collaboration with the industry players, as well as enhancing the elements of adoption for companies to adopt technology or digitalization forward. Okay, so without further ado, okay, yeah, we got it here. Let's look from the perspective of the digital economy as a whole per se. MDEC is a development agency under the purview of our Ministry of Digital. Our Minister, Yang Berhormat YB Gobin, is now currently the Minister of Digital itself. And from the perspective of digitalization nationwide, there was always been a target that we have already set from digital economy. Okay? When we move the needle, or when we want to aim towards a certain goals itself, our perspective from the aim or the focus where digital economy can play a role is basically having a target. Now that target itself is coming from the perspective of the GDP contribution for the country. Now when we look from the GDP perspective, the main aim that we are looking at is to achieve, from the digital economy point of view, a percentage of 25.5% contribution of digital economy towards the whole GDP of the nation itself. That is basically the target as a whole. Where are we right now? We are basically at a point of 23.5% for this year at least. Now, in order to move the needle between 23.5 to 25.5 by the year of 2025, it's easier said than done. Okay? Even a slight percentage of movement from the growth of GDP requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of investments to be made, a lot of exports to be given out to other countries to build up the capacity within the country in terms of funding, in terms of talents, and so on and so forth. Since the inception of our MDC at that point of time, we call it Multimedia Development Corporation, or introducing the MSC, Multimedia Super Corridor, in 1996. And up to now, as you can see, the percentage of growth had been tremendously given from the perspective of job creations as well as active MSC companies. Now, that has seen the growth from the perspective of exports, revenue, as well as investments. Now, hopefully, with the growth itself, we had rebranded the MSC status to become a so-called MD. We call it MD, Malaysian Digital. Okay, and if we go to the next page, with the MD, it's basically a national strategic initiative with the aim to build a stronger foundation via the establishment of the Multimedia Super Corridor, or MSC. Target 2025 to achieve 25.5% digital economy contribution for GDP
But with the further target of 2030, short between now and medium term, there is a target of 170 billion in terms of investments that we have targeted, a target of 200 billion in terms of revenue, 500,000 jobs to be created, as well as 96 billion in terms of exports. I'm not so sure whether you've seen that lately. I think it was last week. Yang Berhormat Gobin had also announced that we had achieved about nearly 70 billion with regards to investment. Yes, that would basically be the target in terms of total digital economy contributing for the economy as a whole. So where's the focus that we're going to play in terms of MDEC is basically focusing onto three main areas, which is, if you go back to the previous page, please, attracting high-value digital investments, that will be basically the first one, driving all the digital adoption as a whole, that cuts across various sectors, which I'll show later, as well as growing all the local tech companies within Malaysia. And this would lead to the potential exports of our local companies moving forward. Yeah? Okay, next page. Now, how are we going to plan to do this? We have 23.3, aiming for 25.5 by the year of 2030. Those were the numbers that were given. Nothing can be done if we roll on a status quo model, and hence, when we had a decision of coming up with a 25.5% targeted GDP by 2025, there were certain sectors that we needed to focus on. And these were the sectors that we believe will be able to contribute towards the growth of the digital economy as a whole. The sectors were divided into three main segments, basically the economy, the industry, economy being wealth creation, the industry being the innovation and productivity, as well as society, where quality of life takes into account. 9 sectors has been identified, which covers digital finance, Islamic digital economy, as well as digital trade that falls under our economy and wealth creation. In terms of the industry pillar, which focuses on innovation as well as productivity, the sectors that has been identified is digital agriculture, tourism, as well as content and creative. That will basically be on the animation or the game side. Okay, and then last but not least, on the society, where we focus on the quality of life, that will look into the digital services, the digital health, which we are playing today, as well as the digital cities. So those are basically the 9 sectors that we are focusing between now to 2025. Now you might be asking, what about the other sectors? Are we not looking into the sectors of manufacturing, electronics, as well as, let's say, for transportation for that matter? We have these sectors that have been identified, and we are also building up on other sectors as we move forward post-2025 itself. Okay, now, how are we going to take around these sectors in coming up with new ideas in terms of adoption, especially for digital health industry? This is where our role as MDEC, on top of looking into adoption, on top of growing the local tech companies to be exported, or in taking into account investment from other countries into Malaysia and building up the talents and so on and so forth, we are also embarking on programs that will enhance or will be building the industry as a whole. Now, these programs, which we call Pemangkin, which is basically developing high catalytic projects. Okay, high catalytic projects are projects that will turn around the industry as a whole through digitalization. And hence, each and every sector, which is headed by all the head of departments, Dr. Carl, unfortunately he's not able to make it for today, is looking into coming up with Pemangkin projects or high catalytic projects that will turn around the industry through digitalization. And this is where we believe that through the high catalytic projects, we will be able to move the needle slightly towards the aim of 25.5%. So that is basically in a nutshell from the perspective of the Malaysian digital economy as a whole. Okay, next. So, On the next agenda is basically looking from the perspective of focusing on digital health from the area of opportunities, trends, and challenges. Okay? Go to the next page. We had Frost and Sullivan commissioned to undertake a study last year. This was basically regards to the tech trends that they developed for a period of, I think, about 6 months that covers all the 9 sectors as a whole, looking from the trend as where does digitalization can play a role. So, from the perspective of digital health, now we're focusing more on digital health, basically digital health itself is defined as data application to the healthcare industry, delivering using computational as well as telecommunication technologies to support all the business processes, the workflows, clinical workflows, as well as patient and management. What we're trying to say here is that based on the study that was undertaken by Frost and Sullivan, the CAGR for Malaysia's digital health market between 2021 to 2027 will be achieving at least a CAGR of 20.4%. That is basically a very positive outcome in terms of the opportunities and trends that we are looking at. Vis-a-vis the CAGR for the global digitalization healthcare market, especially in the US, you can see that the CAGR is about 15.1%. So there are a lot. We are on the trajectory growth that has a bigger potential compared to the world global digital health market as a whole. So we have 20.4 versus 15.1. Hence why one of the sectors that we identified is digital health, moving the needle for achieving the 25.5%. Okay, next. So, taking that into account, what is the level of maturity that we had developed based on the tech trends working with Frost and Sullivan is that we had divided the healthcare or the ecosystem of the digital health levels of maturity into 3 main stages. The first one being the early stage, the second one being the growth stage, and the third one being the expansion stage. Now, some of the areas that we are looking at, especially based on the adoption, based on the investments or export opportunities, some of the areas that we look from the perspective of the companies that we have locally are mainly on the early stages or the growth stage. The early stages will basically focus mainly on providing centrics, clinical systems, ERPs, or business process re-engineering, or BPI, business process improvement. But most of the, as mentioned just now, we are taking into adoption of all the companies that we had worked with through a lot of our industry engagement that we had. The growth stage is basically focusing on decentralization, where government will play a major role as adopting or as well as providing guidance in terms of policies and regulations. We had also taken into account shared health records, smartphones, social network, big data, as well as virtual visits. And then the expansion stage is where the digital transformation, that is basically the end game that we like digital health to move towards in Malaysia as a whole. And this is basically focused on personalization and customerization, patient-centric, adoption of AI, blockchain, rise of national non-traditional providers. Part of the job that, part of the task that was given to all of us in MDEC, especially within my division itself and Dr. Carl's division, is basically looking into the perspective of having companies to adopt technologies moving forward. Adoption through the likes of all the technology enablers such as AI, blockchain, IoT, and so on and so forth. So that is basically, we are looking from a perspective where we can move the needle moving towards the digital transformation stage itself.